All right, Dakota Jones, it's a pleasure to have you on the Single Track podcast.
Thanks a lot, man. It's really great to be here.
So, a couple things I want to touch on before we get into Javelina. First, and perhaps, at least in my opinion, because I'm a Salt Lake City local, you recently moved back here, and I'm curious, can you talk about what it's been like getting reacquainted, and are you enjoying it so far?
Yeah. So I'm still figuring things out. Very much a new person here. I've never lived in a city this big, but I am from. I lived in southern Utah until I was 15. So it does kind of feel like I'm at home a little bit. And the big reason that I moved here was to be closer to family. And so I'm actually living next door to my sister now and her husband. And there's such a great community here. So it feels like I'm here with a bunch of friends too. So it's been a lot of fun to come to a place where I feel like I know people, especially family, but also like for how many times I've been through here, I don't know the Wasatch Mountains like at all. And the little bit that I've been able to get out there in the last few months, it's like pretty mind blowing.
Looking at like Gaia and Strava and seeing what other folks are doing, do you feel like this can be a place where you can satisfy all your training needs for the Hardrocks and the UTMBs and all these great mountain races across the world?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Wasatch is amazing. You can get as much technical stuff as you want. You can have big vert days. You can have everything you need. Yeah, it's incredible. And it's like right next to this giant city. Actually, my sister calls it a mid-sized city. Excuse me.
Right on. Well, you've had a super interesting year. I think by all accounts, an awesome hard rock performance. And I want to say all that first, because I'm always interested in where great athletes like yourself are in their careers right now. And you've got engineering school, you've got footprints going on, you've got other life responsibilities, you just moved. Where does running sit on the totem pole for you right now? Like how important is it? How integral is it? Do you feel like you're being like a quote unquote pro athlete right now?
Yeah, I guess. It's in terms of like trail runners, where it's like trail runners are kind of expected to race too much and like do all kinds of other things. Like, yeah, I'm normal in that sense. But like in terms of real athletes, like triathletes or like road runners or cyclists, it's like that's all they do. And I'm very much not there. I've been running ultras for a really long time and had ups and downs. And I think that around like 2 years ago, I kind of like found a new rhythm for myself that helped me feel like more connected to running than I had in the past few years before that. And basically I think it comes down to like finding a reason for me that like feels really powerful for me to be a part of the sport and to continue to put so much effort into running ultra marathons. And for me, that's like environmental activism and just community development. And so you mentioned my running camp, Footprints Running. That's a major part of what I'm focused on now. And, it's not like I'm like trying to race well just so the Footprint succeeds, but racing well does help Footprint succeed sometimes because it like gets attention on it. But it also like racing well, it's not about racing well. It's about just racing because that puts me back a part of this community and like the whole like model that we're trying to focus on with environmental action is about like leveraging your community. And there's like no better community than the trail running world. So I feel like for me, I'm focused a lot on like organizing these running camps and on doing engineering school. And that takes a lot of time and attention away from running, but it also like in my brain, it's all a part of like the activism I'm trying to do and like the participation I want within the trail running world. So like running is kind of like the foundation of it all. Does that make any sense?
Oh no, right on, man. And I think we'll loop back around to where you're at from like a racing standpoint and what's on your plate the rest of the year and after that. But I guess reflecting on environmental action for a second, you recently made the switch from Salomon to Nnormal, Killian's brand, and I think that's super cool, man. And
yeah, me too.
Given that, it is, and given that Killian kind of he definitely shares a lot of the same values that you have in terms of our responsibility in shepherding this planet. How much did environmental action factor into that decision?
Yeah, I don't want to say anything bad about Salomon because Salomon's amazing. I worked with them for like 7 years, and I think that they've done an amazing thing for the sport and built up like the community of the sport really, really well. It's not that I left Salomon because I was unhappy with them. It's more that I like joined Nnormal because I had this amazing opportunity to join Killian's new team. And like anybody else, it's like I definitely kind of idolize Killian. He's like the best athlete we've ever seen in our sport. But I particularly admire him because of this kind of like activism he does outside of the sport, or kind of through his like celebrity within the sport. And he's really smart. Like the more you get to know him, like, he's pretty soft spoken, and everybody always asks him about like running or skiing. So you don't really hear this a lot, although he has been more outspoken the last few years. But it's like he's super smart. He reads a lot of articles and books and like watches documentaries. Like he knows a lot about what needs to be done, and he's also humble enough to like do what he can and then find the experts to do what he can't. So like Nnormal's a great example. It's like he wanted to start a brand that was making like high quality performance products, but also like that can be an example within the outdoor industry of a profitable business that's profitable because of their sustainability actions. And Killian like doesn't know how to be a CEO because he's never done that. He doesn't know how to be like a product designer, a product manager. Like, of course, he's a very smart person who can learn these skills, and he's involved in every step of the way. But he like hired the professionals to like do these specific tasks so that this business can succeed. And that's something that I've really tried to admire and emulate as much as I can. Like we haven't, like my running camps, it's a nonprofit and I'm the executive director, but it's like, I shouldn't be because I don't have the experience to do that. Fortunately, I have a lot of people who do have experience who help me, but I don't know where I'm going with this. Basically, it's like, it's a huge honor to join Killian's team because I think that what they're doing is a really cool extension of the kind of work that I want to do. So
I think this is super cool, man. I think this is super cool. And I'm kicking myself here because we're constrained by the I Run Far style Javelina pre-race interview format. So we'll have to go long form at some point.
We'll come back and do it later. Yeah.
Yeah. But moving to Javelina, how are you feeling heading in? We were talking offline. You've been doing some, in my opinion, super cool link ups in the Wasatch that are somewhat Javelina specific to make it happen. How's training going for you?
It's been going super well. I think it's really easy to pick apart a training cycle and say like, oh, if I'd done this a little bit better, or this or this and this. But, I've done this long enough. I feel good. My body's responding well. I've worked really, really hard. I think the trick now is just to rest and make sure that I'm fully recovered because I've put in a lot of work. So it's been really fun. I feel like I've had really good like consistency. And for me, honestly, for everybody, I think that the most important aspect of training is just consistency. And I only had like one tiny little mix up one day where it's like I missed a workout because of some silly thing, but I don't know. In 5, 6, 7, what is this, like 7 weeks that I was really focusing on? That's not that bad.
And you feel like, Hardrock was a ways away at this point, like 3 months ago. Do you feel like that is like totally past and, all of the rigors that you put yourself through during that race, like you're recovered from it and your legs are Javelina specific ready?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely wouldn't be able to go up and down mountains like that right now. But yeah, it's, I feel like Hardrock went really, really well because I was really prepared for it and I was super fit. And when you're really fit, you recover well. And you also recover well when you actually recover, like I think we have a tendency to just like get excited, especially after you have a good race. Like Hardrock's kind of the best race I've ever had, especially that distance. And so it's easy to be like psyched and like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this again in 3 or 4 weeks. But fortunately, I didn't do that. And now, like you said, we're like 3-ish or more months out from Hardrock. And I feel like I recovered pretty quickly. I took the time I needed. It was like, and for me, that's often more mental than physical. I put a lot of energy, like mental and emotional energy into running a race that I care about. And Hardrock is like the race I care most about. So it takes time to recover from that. But like, I definitely could not have trained the way I did for Javelina without being fully like recovered from Hardrock.
Well, obviously, at least in my opinion, but I think a lot of folks would agree, you're one of the best runners in our sport. And I think it's also interesting. You raced with a lot of courage at Hardrock, like 50 or 60 miles into the race, you took the lead against Francois and Killian and you still finished strong. Is that, and because I'm relatively new to the sport myself, I've only been in it for like 4 or 5 years. Is this the way you typically like to race? Like at Javelina, can we expect you to sort of ignore what's around you and just race hard from start to finish?
Yeah, I try not to like race off the front just for the sake of it. I think some people do that and it's cool. Like I think a lot of people, like Zach Miller's a good example. I think he gets a lot of energy and like inspiration from like racing hard off the front from the gun. And that works for him. He's really good. I don't think that really works for me off my style. I feel like I'm pretty tuned into the way I feel mentally and physically. And I'm pretty good at running my own race. I mean, anytime you're in a race and you're a competitive person like me, I'm very influenced by everything going on around me. But the best races I've had are ones where I've like truly just like focused on what I need. And oftentimes that's letting people go in front of me because I don't feel that good. But there have been times like at Hardrock when, everything logical tells me that I should not go off the front, but I feel good. And I'm running my own race and I'm like within an acceptable level of intensity or pace or whatever I'm looking for. And yeah, I don't know. It's like, if you feel that good and it's working, like screw what you think, go for it. That worked for me. Like the first big race I won was Transvolcania in 2012. And I like dropped the whole field and I was basically this nobody from the United States. And I remember dropping everybody and looking back and being like, this is not supposed to happen, but I felt fine. And then I went on and it worked. I thought a little bit about that during Hardrock though. And I was like, maybe this is going to happen again.
10 years on.
It was okay though. It was fun, man. Like, I don't know. It's like, it's still racing and it's just fun. You take some risks. That's kind of the point.
Last question I have for you, and you can fact check me here, but I don't think you've ever raced Western States before. And it could be the case that Javelina is not a means to Western States. You're just doing it because you are inspired by that race. But are you on a mission for one of these golden tickets?
Big time. Yeah, that's the whole race. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like Western States is such a thing, it's the oldest 100 and everybody does it. It's so much hype. And for whatever reason, I've never run it. And I've been running these races. I've been in the sport like 14 years or something now. So it's crazy, and I'm like, I think I could do well there if I had a good day. And I was like, I got to do that before I get too old, right? I got to give it a shot at least. I don't know. This year, like I always know that there was going to be a year when I was like ready to run Western States when I really wanted to. Yeah. And for whatever reason, like I watched all the race this year and I was like, this is cool. I want to be part of this next year. So Javelina is the way I'm going to try to do that. It's a great way for me to gain experience running a super runnable 100. Obviously Western States is more mountainous than Javelina, but, you can run a lot more of Javelina than you can run a lot more of Western States than Hardrock. And Hardrock's the like style of race that I've kind of focused on in the past. But I think the run in Javelina will be great practice for me to learn to see like, what is it like to try to run basically every step of 100 miles rather than hiking up and down mountains and do it. And, it gets kind of hot. It's like 80 something. It's nothing like Western States. It's a little good practice. And I don't know. But then also like in the build up to Javelina, I've gotten kind of excited about the race itself. Like, I don't know. I was like looking through the Instagram the other day, like, what's it like out there? How many laps?
Right on. Well, Dakota, it's been a pleasure to meet. And I really do mean it when I say I hope we can go long form later this year, early next year, because that intersection between environmental activism and what athletes in our sport can do absolutely fascinates me. We'll make sure to link to Footprints Running in the show notes. Same thing with what you're doing at Nnormal.
Thanks a lot.
Same thing with all your relevant social media. Anything you want to leave the listeners with before we go?
I don't know. I hope you're going out there and having a good time in these last beautiful days before it becomes winter. I don't know. Run because you love it. I'm going to go try to run really fast on the 29th of October, but I'm going to stop if I hate it. But I won't hate it.